Good morning. This is Kellie Syfan from Clove Hitch Behavior. I am on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. Thank you so much for joining me today, as we do every Friday in the 10 o'clock hour for Behavior 911. My big focus is on helping you understand the science of behavior so that you can apply it to yourself, to your family, and to your life. Today, we're going to be talking about different types of reinforcement contingencies. So, in past shows, we talked about reinforcement, how reinforcement is a consequence, just meaning something that happens after a behavior that increases the likelihood of that behavior in the future. So when we've got a behavior in ourselves or we're supporting a behavior in someone else that we want to see continue, that we want to establish, that we want to have go into the future with strength and be a part of the repertoire for a long time, we want to make sure that it's reinforced. And we can go about that sort of casually, or we can go about it in a way that's really structured. So, today I want to talk about some of the most common structures so you have an idea of what that can look like should you decide to move forward in that way. Now, I know that we've talked about in the past differential reinforcement. So, if you go back to that show, you'll be able to apply that knowledge to this as well. Of course, you can find that all on nextdoorradio.com under the Behavior 911 show tab. Let's go ahead and talk about four different types of reinforcement contingencies. Now, these are going to have things in common with each other. We're going to talk about fixed, and we're going to talk about variable. We'll talk about time, and we'll talk about ratio, and all those things mixed together. So, fixed would mean it's the same every time. Variable means it has some variation, genuinely variable. Time or interval refers to this is based on an amount of time, and ratio is based on an amount of output. So let's start mixing these together. I'm going to start with fixed ratio. So we know from that name, it's going to be a certain amount of output that is the same every time to equal a payout. And I often will use the visual of hammering a nail. So I know for me, it's going to take about 5 hits on the nail for the nail to be complete. And that is a fantastic feeling when you get the nail in and you're ready to move to the next one. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm done. That sort of feeling. You can also see this a lot in schools when you finish your worksheet. So that ratio of one worksheet equals time to go to recess. All those different things can come through. We've got a very set amount of things that need to be done and exactly what's going to happen when they're done. That's our first one, our fixed ratio. The next one I want to go into is fixed interval. So we have that same first part where it's going to be the same every time, but this time instead of an amount of work that needs to be done or an amount of behavior that needs to occur, we've got an amount of time that needs to pass. And this classic example is going to be your paycheck. You know, every 2 weeks, if you maintain the minimum amount of behavior, the minimum amount of work, you will be paid your paycheck at the end of that 2 weeks. And going through with your fixed interval, you know it's going to be the same every interval, and you know at the end of that interval, the payoff is going to occur. So again, we can consider this as we're moving forward, but this be a way that we want to consider talking about helping support behavior. Now we're halfway through, and I want to make sure that you know we're going to go back and talk about some of the positive and negative consequences of each of these. So stick with me. The next one is going to be your variable ratio. So we started with ratio on the very first one. That's a certain amount of work or behavior needs to occur before the payoff. This time we don't know exactly what the ratio is. It's a little bit variable. There's a little bit of a shift to it. And this one is how casinos make their money. They go through and they go, okay, if we have an approximate number of pulls on that slot machine for a payout, and people think that it's going to be about, oh, just one more pull and I should be there, it's going to keep that behavior occurring. It's going to highly reinforce what's going on. So I feel that it's going to be about this much work, about this much behavior, and I expect to pay out. And sometimes that works. And if it's variable and kind of tiny bit predictable, I'm going to really put out a lot of behavior. The last one is the variable interval. So again, variation, interval, and amount of time. This one, the example I like to use is bird watching. So I know, let's say about every 5 minutes, another bird is going to fly by. I don't know exactly when a bird is going to come, but I know they're going to come in about this interval. And every time they do, I'm super jazzed and I'm ready to see the next bird. So that's going to be your variable interval. Shifts a little bit, and it's based on time. So each of these you can see just from these examples can increase behavior, but there's some interesting things that can happen if you use any of them. So let's go in the backwards order. That variable interval. So I'm out there bird watching. I expect to see a bird about every 5 minutes. 6 minutes rolls around. This is variable, so that should still be all right. I'm doing okay. 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, I'm starting to get antsy. I'm starting to do things I maybe wouldn't normally do, like I'll try a bird call, or I'll do, maybe I should shift where I'm looking, move around a little bit more than usual. You'll see this a lot in kids when they start to feel like the end of something should be occurring and they start to get real antsy for it to come. So it feels like the end of the day at school, and suddenly everybody's behavior starts to shift and shake. That can be one of the things that comes up with that variable interval. When you start to get that it's taking too long feeling, behavior can start to get a little bit wonky. So something to consider. For the variable ratio, again, that one, the first thing we think of are casinos. It's going to push a lot of behavior and create a lot of pull. So just like with the variable timer, we have some possible challenges that can come with it. The big possible challenge with this one is we're not going to want to stop trying even when we're at a point where it's no longer, say, viable or it's beyond what is achievable. We're going to want to put more effort in, and it can turn into, your kiddo that wants to keep playing the video game over and over and over again. They keep wanting, oh no, I can't pause in this part. I really have to go. I need to catch Pikachu or whatever it might be. If I just try a little bit harder, I'll get that next amazing thing in my video game. They designed it really well. That uses that variable ratio. If you just try a little more, you just put a little more in, if you just stay on the game a little longer, you're going to achieve this next thing. So something to watch out for there. The next one is going to be the fixed interval, and that again is the paychecks. And you heard me probably when I explained this at first, the minimum amount of work to hit that time. So you're just trying to stay right below the radar in order to hit that time stamp and get the payoff. That can be a big problem. So what you'll see often with these, if you're seeing the maleffects of a fixed interval schedule, is I'm not doing much, I'm not doing much, I'm not doing much. Oh, it's about to be time. All of a sudden, I'm putting tons of effort in. Look at me, I'm working so hard. And then I get the payoff and I stop. So it's very interesting looking at that as well, that this can be incredibly helpful to supporting behavior, or it can have some challenging effects. The last one I want to go over is that fixed ratio. Now, if I know it's going to take me 5 tries to get something done, like I have to complete 5 worksheets and then I get to go outside, let's say, I might be really slow to start 1, 2, and 3. And then I feel like I'm close 4, 5. I get it done really fast. And that can either mean, holy smokes, there's a lot of whining at the beginning, and then we do all right and we finish, or I'm putting a lot of effort in the beginning. Now that I see the light at the end of the tunnel, my effort goes down and I'm just trying to get it done as fast as possible. Lots of different things to consider. So, if you're going through this and you're trying to put forward a really structured reinforcement schedule so that you can try to support behavior in yourself or someone else, you're listening to all this and you're going, I don't know how to step forward with this. Don't worry, you can give me a call. I am Kellie Syfan with Clove Hitch Behavior. My number is 919-579-6192. You can go to my website, chbehavior.com. I'd be happy to sit and talk with you about this. Just see what we can do to get you set up and moving forward. Now, what I want to leave you with today is that there's no perfect solution. Again, look back at the differential reinforcement show that we did a while back and consider what's going to be the best way to step forward so that you're seeing success in reinforcing the behaviors that you want to see. Consider those different challenges that can come up. Look at how your child and your family and your values are going to align best with supporting behavior moving forward. Make sure that everybody involved knows what's going on so that we can be a part of the solution. We don't have to be shady. We don't have to be sneaky with this. And know that change can happen in behavior. Thank you so much for joining me on Behavior 911. Catch me next week at 10 a.m. on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app.